Hello and welcome to another lesson in our Excel VBA programming. In our previous lessons, we started with our third project, that is the bulk files converter application. Okay, we created the front end and designed all the interface that we want to design, and everything is done. So in this lesson, we're just going to write the codes to automate everything in that applications. Okay, now let's quickly delve right into that. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Press the bell icon so that you can receive notifications anytime we upload new tutorials. Okay, if you would also want to access our previous tutorials, we have the links in the videos descriptions below. You can just check the links out and then have access to our previous tutorials. Now let's quickly delve right into these lessons. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the second lesson in our third project, and that is the converter application. In our previous lesson, we've done a lot, deal with the front end designing as well as writing macros to browse and locate the various folders to allow conversion. So now we're going to write the macros to enable us to do the conversion. So let's dive right into that. So we go for this folder, the project 3, and then just double click to launch it from here. Perfect. So we're going to start with the first one, that is the Excel to PDF macros, right? So let's deal with that. So quickly we go to the developer tab and come to the Visual Basic. We go to insert, then we go to insert module, and we just have to give it a name, right? So it says name it here. You can just say Excel to PDF macros. Perfect. So in here, you just give it a subroutine, the sub, then we give it Excel to PDF. You can just name it like that. Excel, then underscore to, then underscore PDF is another way of naming our sub procedures. So Excel to PDF using underscore to separate each word. So that is how it stands. So first of all, we're going to do some few settings. So we start with, we don't want the screen to be updating. Okay, I'll explain that. So application dot screen updating, right? I would want to set it to false. What this does is that when the macros are running, or when the macros is running, we don't want any changes to happen on our sheet. We want it to remain like that. And what happens is, if the screen updating is set to true, whatever changes occur on the sheet will be saved, and we don't want it like that, so we set it to false. We would also want to display the status bar, so we say application dot status bar, application dot display sorry dot display status bar, sorry, that is it. The display status bar, we want to display the status bar, so we set that to what, true, right? So we tab it over. Perfect. And that is about that displays showing the progress when converting conversion is in progress, right? So that is that. Now we need to declare some few variables. So we say dim sh, that is what, as worksheet as usual. That is that. Perfect. And we also want to set the worksheet, sorry. We say set sh, would want to set sh is equal to this workbook, so that we refer to our, sorry, this workbook dot sheet, okay, then into bracket, then the name of the sheet in question where the conversion is going to be, and that is a Excel to PDF. That is the name of the sheet. So put it in inverted commas, so it's spelled in capital letters. So Excel, sorry, to PDF. That is the name of the sheet, right? So to PDF, perfect. So that is the sheet we are referring to. We make sure the name is spelled correct. So we want to declare another variable. So say dim fo. Oh, sorry, that is a fso first as a file system object. Okay, we want to dim it as new file system objects, and then we'll also want to go with the folder which is holding our files, right? So we say dim fo as a folder. Okay, perfect. Then the next thing is the files that are in the folders. We would want to take care of them. So say dim f as file. Sorry, as file. Perfect. So we got all those things covered. Now, what of the workbook itself? We need to dimension it too. So we say dim wb as workbook. Now, all these names of the variables I'm using here as F, as WB, as FO, FSO, and all that. You can name them the way you want, but then the problem is that make sure the names matches with their purpose or what they intend for. For example, F standing for file, it makes sense, right? FO standing for folder makes sense, right? FSO standing for what? File system object also makes sense. So that is the important thing. We just have to make sure that the way we name our variables matches with what they do. So with that, when we come back to our codes in the near future, we'll be able to know what each and every line of code does. So that is that. Now we need to dim another thing, maybe dim n. This n is going to do with the counting of the files and updating it during the conversion. Okay, so dim n as integer. Sorry, so that's going to be a number. Perfect. And then now we would want to set the folder to the path which is what's holding the files, the path we've collected from here, this particular path here. Would want to set our folder to match with that. Okay, so we say what we say set fo equal to get folder. So it should be fso dot get folder function. So fso dot get folder, perfect, dot get folder, fso dot get folder into bracket. Now the range where that particular file path is what we are going to make reference to here. So we say what sh dot range, sorry, dot range into brackets. Now let's go back and refer to the range before we come back and make sure that we don't make any mistake. The range is what h11, then the output folder is what h12. Let's take note of that. Range is what h11, then close the bracket. I think we got that one as well covered, and then dot value, perfect. Then we close the bracket. So we are done with that. Now we are going to use a loop to loop through each and every file inside the folder, and then we are going to use the progress bar or the status bar to display the progress during the conversion. So to do that, use the for loop. So we say for each f, you know f stands for what? Folder, right? For each f in the in fo, that is what the folder which the files are in. For each file, that is what? For each f, meaning for each file in what? Fo, that is the folder, right? Dot files, the files in the folder. Now we want to use VBA dot we have something we call VBA dot do event. I've already explained that before. Do events. Now this helps us to be able to move the mouse around and do any other thing during the conversion. That is what the VBA do events function does for us. So now anytime you use for loop, go to say next for or next something, that we can just leave it as next, and that wouldn't cause any problem. Let's take note of that. Now what we want to do right now is this. Since this one will allow us to move the mouse around during the conversion, we would want to start with the conversion. But then during the conversion, we want to be counting the files and be displaying the progress on the status bar somewhere here during the conversion. So we say what? N, which is going to do with the counting of our files. N is equal to what? N plus 1. And what this does is that on each, whenever the first file is converted, it takes the first file and then add the next file to it too, and then the next file to that, in that order till the conversion is done. That is what happens. So we are going to now deal with the status bar. So we say application dot status bar. Okay, application dot status bar is equal to, now what we want to display on the status bar during the conversion. We want to display a text like something like processing. Are you okay with that? Processing. It will show you that something is happening. Processing. You would want to see this particular word. Processing. It means something is happening, right? Then we would want to concatenate it to the number of what? Files. Okay, so we say what? And to concatenate, we use this. Sorry, to concatenate, we use the ampersand to do that, right? So this, and then we use the n again, that's the number of files. Then we go ahead and concatenate it again to the slash, and then we have the forward slash, and then this will be like the files converted so far out of the total number of what? Files. Okay, then we use the ampersand again, and we deal with the fo dot files dot count. Perfect. So what this does is that when we call on the application dot status bar, what we want to display on the status bar is that we want to display something like this: processing. All this is just a string, right? And we are concatenating it to what? The number of files that have been converted so far during the conversion. That is what I mentioned here. This is with the number of files. So when the first one is converted, then one is added to the already converted one, and it's also converted, making it 2. And the one is added to make it 3 till the number of files in the folder are done with the conversion. Okay, so during that, we have here which holds the number of folders or files that are converted so far over the total number of what? Files in the folder. So that is what you are seeing there. Perfect. And after that, we would want to set WB, that is the workbook, is equal to workbooks. We would want to open the various workbooks. Okay, that is we are converting from Excel to what? To what's the name? To PDF. Workbooks dot open function. Then into bracket, then we use the f dot path. Perfect. Exactly. Now the next thing is that we are going to just deal with the conversion. And now during the conversion, what is going to happen during the conversion is that we are going to make sure that we export it with a fixed format. And then we are going to maintain the name of the file we already have. Maybe if the Excel file is what? Test1, we would want the PDF file to also be what? Test1. But then it should be stored in a different folder, right? That is what we are doing. And also we are going to change the extension from what? .xlsx to what? .pdf. That is what we are going to do straightforward to be able to deal with the conversion without any problem, without any stress. So to do that, we say WB, that is the workbook dot. We deal with the workbook, the various workbooks in what? The folders, right? Dot export fixed formats. That is the format we are talking about. WB, that is the workbook for fixed formats, and then we call on the the Excel type. Okay, the Excel type is what? PDF, then PDF, then comma, then sh dot. Now we're going to deal with the what? Output folder dot range into brackets. And let's look at the range of the output folder, and that is what? H12, right? This one, the second one here, H12 dot range H12, and then we close this into brackets, right? Dot value. Then we would want to concatenate it to application dot path separator. Okay, now the path separator deals with what? We are going to separate input folder path from what? The output folder path. Okay, so we call it the path separator. Then from there, we then concatenate it to what? VBA. Then we use the replace function to replace the what's the name? VBA dots replace. We use the replace function too. But before we can do the replacement, we have to deal with the name of the file first. Okay, so to do that, we call on the f dot what name. With this f dot name, what this function does is that it maintains the name of the file. For example, if the name of the PDF Excel file we are converting is what, like I said, test1, we would want that name to be maintained and be given to the PDF file we are converting. So we have maintained that. So comma. Now the next thing is we would want to replace the excel.xlsx, that is the file extension of the workbook. So let's deal with that first. Dot xlsx. Then we would want to then replace it to what? Dot pdf, right? So that is that. We want to replace it to what? Dot pdf. So we say dot p and just use pdf. Perfect. Then we close this. Perfect. And I think that is done. Then we close our bracket. So we are done with that. Immediately we deal with that. Initially we open the workbook before all this conversion stuff took place. So the next thing we are going to do is to make sure that we close the workbook. So to do that, talk of wb dot what? Dot close. This closes the workbook. Okay. So perfect. That is that. Now after that, we would want to come outside the loop now. That is outside the next. And we say application. Once that is done, we don't want anything to display on the status bar again. So we have to call on the application dot status bar and set it to what? Empty string. So it's application dot status bar is equal to, then we leave it for an empty string. It means there's nothing there again. After the conversion, what else do you want to see? Nothing. So after that, we want to give a message that is something to prompt the user that the conversion is done. Okay, so we use message box, right? Message box. Then the message should be something like process completed. Since we talk of what processing during the processing displayed on the status bar, now that is completed, we say what? Sorry, process completed. Perfect. So that is what we would want to display on that. Then basically I think we are done. Now let me just go over again. The first thing what we did was that to make sure that the screen updating is set to false. And what this does is that it makes sure that any changes that is made during a conversion, when macros are running, a lot of things happen, right? So we want any changes at all that occur there shouldn't be saved. We don't even want the screen to update, not to talk of even saving any changes. So we set the screen updating to false. I would also want to display the status bar, something that shows progress during the conversion. So we said application.display status bar should be equal to true, by set it to false. Sorry, it should be equal to true. Perfect. And then the next thing is declaration of our variable. We deem sh as what? Worksheet. And I said you can use any name at all of your choice here, but make sure that it is in line with what we are doing or what you are using it for or its intended purpose, right? Now we would also want to set the sh as what? This workbook.sheets. Which of the sheets? We are talking of this particular sheet, the one we are using here. That's Excel to PDF. That is the name of the label of the sheet. So we'll refer to that here. Make sure it is spelled correctly. Now the next thing is we deem FSO, that is the file system object, as new file system object. We also deem FO as what? Folder, and deem F as file. We also deem WB as workbook, and then we deem N as integer. This is what is going to help us in doing the counting of the files during the conversion, right? So basically that is that. Now the next thing is that we want to set FO, that is the folder dot, is equal to what? FSO, that is the file system object dot get folder, then the path where the input folder is, that is the H11. We would want to trace that path and use the path for something. Now, once we get the path, once we get the path, it means we have access to what? The various files in that folder, right? So now that we have access to the various files in the folder, we would want to look through them and then take each one and convert. So how do we do that? We say what? For each F, it means for each file in what? FO in for each file in the folder, in the input folder, VBA.do events. The VBA.do event enables us to move around our mouse and do any other thing during when the macros are running, right? So that is that. Now we want to do the counting of the files Example, if we have 10 files in the folder, the moment the first one is converting, we would want to have something like 1/10. When that one is done, we would want to add the next one to it. So that would be what? 2/10. So that is why we said what? N is equal to N plus 1. It means the number of file plus the additional one. So the third one, then 3/10, fourth one, then plus 4/10. The one will be added to each and every one until all the 10 files are converted. So during this, we would want to display something on the status bar. Okay. So we say what? Application.status bar is equal to what? Processing. We want the user to see something like this. It means something is running, something is happening. The conversion is taking place. So processing, then dot 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 like this. Okay, you can reduce one, it's okay. At least 3 dots is okay. If you like, you can even put 10 dots, it doesn't matter. That is up to you. Now, we want to concatenate that to what? The number of files in the folder, okay, which we are converting. If the first one is now being converted, we have 1, then slash, then the total number of files in the folder. That is what? fo.files.count, the total number of files in the folder. Now, with that, we want to deal with the workbook now. During now we want to deal with the real conversion. So we said WB is equal to what? Workbooks.open. We want to open the various workbooks that we are converting. When we take the first one, we want to open it before we convert the content inside it to PDF. Now, we want to set it to what? Workbooks.open, and then we open it from the path where it is located, right? We deal with the file path where it is located, and the file path is here. Is here, right here. Perfect. Let's minimize this. Now what we are going to do it right now is this. Now we want to what? Export it and then change convert it and then change the the file extension but maintain the name. So to do that, we use what? The workbook.export as fixed format Excel type PDF. So this is what we want to export it to. We want to export as fixed format, and then the Excel type is what? PDF. Now, where is that going to be stored in? It's going to be stored in the S8.range H12, this particular range, H12. Here, this is the output folder. You can see PDF folder path. This is where it's going to be stored in. Perfect. Dot value, that is the output and the folder path there. Now we want to concatenate it to what? Application.path separator. Now this separates the input file folder path from the output folder path, right? Then we want to concatenate it again to what? VBA.replace. We use the replace function to what? Replace this dot SXLSX, which is the Excel format or extension, to PDF, which we are converting it to, but we are maintaining the name. This f.name means whatever name we have for the Excel file should be maintained for the PDF. We don't want to change, but then the extension should be changed. Let me just show you what I mean by the extension. If I should create a new Excel book here like this, you can see this XLSX is the extension. So we would want to replace it to what? PDF. That is what I'm talking about. Let me do it with it here. So that is that. So we don't want to deal with that as well. So once that is done, workbook, we've opened the workbook before converting whatever content is inside. Now we want to what? Close it. So we say what? WB.close. It means workbook.close. And after that, we are done with the actions in our loop. Then after that, I want to come out and say what? Application.status bar. Now the status bar, during this process, the status bar is displaying something. Now that the thing is done, we would want to set the status bar to be empty. We don't want anything to display it again. Now we give the user a message, something like message box. Then we say what? Process completed, and that is the message we have for the user. And once that is done, everything should be up and running. So we're just going to assign this particular macros to a button here, okay, inside here, this particular button. So we right click on this particular button and then click on assign macro. Then you choose this Excel to PDF and click on OK. So now that you can see that macro has been assigned to that. So the next thing we're going to do is just to make sure that we browse and locate the various folders, and then so we click on this. So let's locate the output, which is there. Now let's check on something here before we do that. Now we have some Excel files here, right? So we have this one, test 2. So we want to convert them to PDF and store them inside this folder. Okay, that is what we want to do. So you can close this for now, and then we go back, and then this is the input folder. This becomes the output folder. Okay, so we go here, then we browse for the input folder. We have this. Then we click here and browse for the output folder, which is the PDF. We select this one. So perfect. Now that that is done, the next thing we're going to do is just to click on this and then we have it run. So click on this so you can see the processing 2, 3, and 4. Now let's expect the message process completed. So perfect. Means everything is done. So when we come back to our folder here and open it, you see that all the files are converted straightforward without any problem, without any stress. So I think that is that for the first macro. So now the next thing we're going to look at is to write the second macros for converting from PDF to Word. Okay, this one can see for now there is no macros here. So from that is a PDF to Word, right? So let's go ahead and deal with that. Just a minute. Good. So to do with that, let's just go once again back to our back end here. Then we go and insert another module. Maybe user module here. Then we just have to name it. Then we can give it PDF to Word macros. Perfect. So we have that. So PDF to Word macros. Just double click on it. Now we just have to write our sub procedure. So we say sub. So we can give it PDF to Word, right? PDF, then underscore, then underscore, then Word. Perfect. So we have this. So is the macro is just similar to the previous one. So I don't think there wouldn't be much of an issue here. So you already know what's the name screen updating is, and then the application of status bar, you already know them, so we're going to deal with them. So we have application dot screen updating. We would want to set that to what? False. Okay, now we have another we call application dot display alert. Okay, we don't want any alert message, so we set that to false. So we set application dot display alerts, set that one to false. Okay, now the next one we have is the application of status bar. Okay, application dot display status bar, sorry, this status bar, that is the second one. This is equal to what? True, right? Perfect. Now we need to dimension some variables here. So we first of all dim sh as worksheet. Perfect. Now we would want to set sh to this workbook, this workbook, this workbook dot sheet. Which of the sheets? Let's check the name of the sheet. That is PDF to Word. That is the name, PDF to Word. Let's take note of that. So we have this PDF to Word, to Word. Okay, sorry, why do I have this? All should be in capitals. PDF to Word. We close the bracket. Sorry, this workbook, this work, okay, equal to, perfect, set sh equal to this workbook, the sheet, and then this one. So perfect. So now we need to dimension our file path, okay, where the path are going to be picked from this particular file path. So we're talking about this and this. Initially we didn't do that in the previous one because it's of no need. So here we need it. So we just have to dimension that. So say, so dim PDF underscore path, the path of the PDF file, because we're converting from PDF to Word, right? So we declare that as also string. Perfect. And we also dim that of the Word. Okay, so Word path, Word underscore path as also string. Perfect. Now we need to assign their values now to where the various paths are located. So PDF. So let me just copy this. Control C to copy, Control V. This should be coming from what? sh dot, sorry, sh dot range into brackets, this particular range, that is H11 and H12. So we have the first one to be H11 dot value, sorry, dot value, and then we have this one. Let's copy this. Control C to copy, Control V to paste. We have this to be word path is equal to sh.range h12 dot value. So we've now taken the paths now. Now we need to declare our file system object once again, declare our folder and declare our file. Okay, so basically that is that. So why don't we just go here and copy them? Okay, so let me just check here. This. I just Control C to copy and then come here, Control V to paste. So let's make sure dim FSO as new file system object. Therefore, we have that. Dim FO as folder and then dim F as file. So now we need to set the folder. So set the folder FO. Set FO is equal to FO. No, it should be file system object FSO dot file system object dot get folder so the get folder into brackets the PDF. What's the name? File path we've already declared this one. Just copy this PDF path. So we are recording that from the PDF path, which is here. Whatever file path you have is what we are taking inside this particular folder now. That is that. So now we need to declare our Word application as what? Object, and then the Word document as also another object. So we say dim WA, that is Word application. Like I said, you can name them anyhow you want, but then you just have to make sure that the names match with with what they are doing. Okay, as what? Objects. And then we need to dim another one. So dim doc, that is the document, also as object. Okay, perfect. Now we need to set Word application, right? The one we've just declared here. Word application is equal to create object. Now we have something we call create object method. What it does is that it creates another word for us. So you know what we are trying to do is to what? Convert from PDF to Word. So we need to create Word out of the text we have on the PDF file. So that's what we are doing here. So the create objects function does that for us. So let's go ahead and call that. This is equal to what? We have the create objects into brackets. Then we have word dot application. Sorry, it should be called word dot application. This will just close the bracket. So perfect. We have that. Now after that, we don't want we want to display the word. Okay, that is the word application. So we want to set its visibility to true. So we say what? Word application dot visible should be equal to true. Perfect. So that is that. Now the next thing is this. We need to count the number of files in the folder and make sure that we display something on the status bar as we did in the previous one, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that, we need to declare some variables. To say dim that is the file, and underscore count. It's just the name of a variable I'm just giving. Okay, the file counts. As I could have used n as in the previous one, but I decided to use file counts here to be a bit unique. Okay, as integer. So you can see that the data type are the same, that is, they are all integers, right? So that is that. So now we need to use for loop to loop inside the folder, take each of the file loop through them. As we convert them, we display something on the status bar. So we use the for loop. So we say for each f, that is for each file in fo dot files, we want to do something. So we come to it and say next, right? Sorry. After for loop, then we go for next. So we say next. So for that, we need to do something. So what we want to do, first of all, we need to display something on the status bar. So we call on the application dot status bar, application dot status bar. Now we would want to assign something on it. So initially, the previous one, the text we have on the bar was processing. Now we want to maybe change it. We can use processing, then it's a string, right? So we say processing, or we can use converting, whichever you want. So you can just go ahead and use it. So let me go ahead and use, to be a bit unique, let me just use converting. Okay. So something like this, converting. Then I would want to concatenate it to what? The counting, that is the number of files that are converted so far, slash the total number of files. That's what I want to do. So I use the ampersand. Then I call on the file count here. File underscore count. That's how I declare the variable. Let me just deal with it well. Underscore count. Make sure the name of this variable here matches whatever is here, else throw an error. +1. We would want to add 1. Initially, we set that before we did the counting, but now we're just doing it at a go, +1. When the first file is converted, store it. When the second one is being converted, after it's converted, add 1 to the previous one to make it 2 out of the total number of files that are converted so far. And the third one, 3 out of the total number of files. That is what we are trying to do, +1. Then we want to concatenate that to what? The slash sign, that is a forward slash. Then we concatenate that as well to the total number of files. That is what? fo dot files. Perfect. So basically that is that, files dot count. Basically that is that. So what is going to happen is this: it will display on the status bar converting. Then this here, all we have here, takes care of what? The number of files that are converted so far. And this is the slash. And this takes care of what? The number of files in the folder. So that is what we want to see on the status bar. So now that that is done, we need to set our document to what? Web application or document. Then we open it. Now we want to open the document from the folder path. Okay, that's what we want to do. So we say WA. Okay, no, we do that. Set that is document is equal to the web application dot documents dot open into brackets f dot path. We want to open it from what? The path in which it is stored. We made reference to those paths in our this. We're talking of this particular path here. This is what we are referring to. Okay, that is the folder path where those files are located. So from there, we would want to, after the converting, the next thing we need to do is to make sure that it is saved and stored in the output folder, right? So let's do that. So to do that, we say doc save as. So we have this save as to into brackets in word path. We've already declared a variable called word path, right? That is after the PDF is converted to Word, it will then be stored in a folder called the word path. This is the word path, and the path is located in the what? H12 range. That is what we saw on the sheet there. So basically that is that. So we have the word path and underscore path, right? Then we would want to concatenate these two places. This is a bit delicate, so we need to know how we go around that. Then we use the backslash, rather, now backslash, and we would want to replace. First of all, we are maintaining the name. If the name of the PDF file we are converting is test, we want to maintain the name as test, but then we are going to change the extension just as we did in the previous one. It's just similar to what we are doing in here. Okay, So we go ahead and do that. Now we need to use the ampersand again, and then use the replace function. Let's say replace, okay, replace into bracket. What are we replacing? First of all, we are maintaining the file name. So to do that, we say what, f dot name, okay, then comma. So the PDF file extension is what, dot PDF. So we have that dot PDF. Then it's a string, so comma. Then we are replacing it to what, dot doc. That is the document. Okay, so that one is also a string. So we say dot, sorry, dot doc. Okay, so I have this. Now let me just clarify something here. You see this doc? This is the older version of what? Office. That is the one which is having the word extension as doc. Now the newer version is coming with what? Docs with X. The reason why I am using doc is that maybe it could be that the one using my application is using the older version of Office. I don't want this program to throw an error. So I'm using the older version. But if you think you would want yours to be with the X, that is the newer version, you don't have any problem. But I prefer it this way so that it can run across all platforms. So basically that is that. So I have that. So once I get that, then it will close my bracket. Then that is that. I think I'm done with that. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to make sure that I close the workbook and then set it to false. Okay, so I say what, doc dot, sorry, dot close is false. Okay, set that to false. So perfect. So that is that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to make sure that I do the counting of what, files after the conversion, count and then add one to it. Initially we did that just as we did here. You can see that here we did it before bringing on the status bar. So here the difference is that we are bringing it afterwards. All is the same, whichever you want to. So we say what, sorry, file, underscore count is equal to file underscore count plus 1. So perfect. So that is that. Now after that we would want to quit the word application. Okay, that aids in the conversion. So you say w, that is word application dot quit. So perfect. So once that is done, now we can then come outside this and then display a message to the user and say something like all files have been converted into Word successfully, whatever, or whatever message you would want to display to users. So message box, I can say done. Okay, done. That's all I want. So whatever message you want, you can leave that. You can leave that there. Now after that, the status bar would want to set it to what, empty string, so that because everything is done, application dot status bar it should be set to what, empty string, right? So perfect. That is that. Then I think we are done with that. So quickly, what we are going to do right now is just to assign a macro to this. So let me just run over this again. We have application of screen updating set to false, application of display alert set to false, then application dot display status bar, we would want that to show, so we set that to true. We declare variables a dim sh as worksheets. All these are work on a path. By now you don't have any problem with this. Now here we are talking of the folder path where the folders are located, and we talk of the range h11 and h12 where the folders are located. So here we are dimming folder here, sorry, file system object here, and then this one is folder here. Now we are dimming this f as file here. Now we are setting the folder is equal to what, f was what, get folder path from the PDF where the input files are. That is the PDF path where the files are located. And we are doing this WA as what, object. That's word application. WA stands for word application. Okay. Dim doc, that is a document as what, object. Now we are setting word application as what, create object from what, word dot application. This is what will help us create word from PDF. Okay. Now word application dot visible, we want to set it to what, true. Okay. So basically that is what we've just done there. Now and then the next thing we are going to look at is this. Let me just confirm this. Div files. Okay, now here we initially in our previous one we dealt with this as what, n. We declared this as n. That is to enable us to do the counting of the files that are converted so far out of the total number of files that are being converted. Okay. But here we just gave it a new name as what? File count. Okay, you can change it to any name at all. You can change it to X, N, or any variable that you want. It's a variable. So we say what? Dim file count as what? Integer. Now we want to use loop to loop through the files in a folder and then convert each and every one of them. So we say what? For each F in fo.files, for each file in a folder, that is the input folder, and we say next for next, basically that is that. Now we would want to display the status bar. So the application.status bar equal to what? Now we want to display something in the status bar. What are we displaying? We are displaying this text converting, then dot 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 dot. Then we are taking this as what? The number of files that are converted so far, then slash the number of files in the folder. So basically that is that. But now we haven't yet incremented it. We are doing the increments here at the bottom. So it's all in the loop. So it will take effect at a go. Now we are setting document as what? WA. That is where the application of document dot open from the file dot path. Okay. So we are opening the path where the word files are going to be located. Okay, so we open that and then begin with the conversion. So to convert, we are converting PDF to a Word, right? So doc. Now the file extension will now be changed to what? Doc dot what? Save as to. And now we are now resaving it as Word. So it's going to be in the Word path folder, and then we are concatenating it to what? And then we are using this replace function to replace PDF to what? Doc. But then we are maintaining the name. So f.name function stands for, what it does is that it maintains the name. If the name of the PDF file we are converting is KingTech, then the name of the Word file that has been converted will also be what? KingTech. So that's what we are doing. But we are changing what? The extension. The PDF is coming with extension .pdf, so we are replacing it with what? .doc. So basically that is that. Now we deal with what? Document.close. Now we set it to what? False. Now here we are incrementing. After the first one is converted, we want to what? Add it to the already converted one. Then we do that until all the files are added and then converted to successfully to the end. Now once we are done, we want to quit the word application. So word application.quit. Now give a message to the user and say done. An application of status bar, we don't want anything to be displayed here again once conversion is done. So we set that to what? An empty string. So basically that is that. I think everything is cool. So now all we need to do is just to go back and then assign a macro this. So just right click on this assign macro and you change it to PDF to Word, right? Converting from that. So now let's check on something here. So now we have these PDF files here, right? So there's this one. So now we have this Word files. Here there's nothing inside here. This becomes our output. So this becomes the input. We're going to load this in the program and then run it and see the output. So now I'm looking for the PDF files. So we have them here. Now I'm looking for the Word files here, which is empty. And I'll then run my macro. Hey, I'm expecting this. Hey, replace. Replace. The spelling is wrong. Sorry. Replace. Effects. Replace. Okay, let me just close this again. Let's run it again. Okay, let me just check and see. Has it converted so far? Okay, not yet. Let me go back. Let me stop the macros again. Okay, so let me go back and run it again. Sorry. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. You can see that the progressing, the converting is here, but then there is an error. Let me debug it again. Set this WA documents as documents. Okay, S is here. Documents. Okay, open. Perfect. So stop it again. Let's run it once again. Okay, converting 1 out of 4. Let's be checking here. See converting 2 out of 4, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4. Now done. So okay, let's close this now. So we can then close this now. So let's check what is happening here. Let's open this. So we have the Word files here now. Converting done successfully. So we have that. So you can see that just one file from Excel, we converted it to PDF, and now from PDF back to Word, which is a very cool thing to do. Automation. So that is that. effect. It's pretty cool and all that. That's cool. So I think our program is running up without any problem, without any stress. Always don't forget to save your work. So I think this video has been a bit longer, so I want to pause here. In our final lesson, we're going to deal with the macros on this particular one, that is the converting from Word back to PDF again. And I think from there, wrap up with everything. So till our next lesson, so thank you very much for watching, and then bye for now.